Hello, everybody. First, listen to this clip of President Museveni talking about protests in East Africa. And I will explain to you who is encouraging and sponsoring these protests in Tanzania.
The opposition are the ones who wanted to organize an insurrection because they say they want to organize here what happened in Libya, supported by you people, by you, the Western governments. What happened in, yes, Egypt? What happened in Sudan, Khartoum? What happened?
So, in that clip, President Museveni was referring to the Arab Spring that happened in North Africa and the Middle East. It was a series of anti-government protests and rebellions. But you know what happened after the Arab Spring? The Arab Spring was sponsored by Western elements to take out people like Muammar Gaddafi, Hosni Mubarak, and more. If you look at the Arab Spring, who replaced Muammar Gaddafi? It became worse. Who replaced Mubarak, Hosni Mubarak? It became worse. Who replaced Omar al-Bashir in Sudan? You know what Sudan is doing right now. So Museveni was talking about these protests in East Africa. That's what the West wants to see. They tried with Kenya to take out Ruto, but Ruto defeated those anti-government protests that wanted an Arab kind of spring in East Africa. It started with Ruto, and Ruto defeated them. It also went to Museveni. Museveni defeated them. Now they thought it's going to go in Tanzania. Samia Suluhu Hassan has defeated those Western elements sponsoring this kind of protests. They want an Arab kind of spring to happen in East Africa. You know, because they thought it happened in Madagascar, it's going to happen in Tanzania. But Samia Suluhu has defeated them. But the most surprising thing here is Kenyan influencers are being paid to do this. They think when Samia Suluhu Hassan is taken out by protests, Tanzania is going to be well off. No, it has shown no country, the person is taken out by protests and the country does better. Look at Ukraine. When they talk out when Zelensky came into, look at Ukraine. When the protests took out the president, Yanukovych, what happened to Ukraine? Look at Ukraine today. Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. When the protests took him out, what happened next? The Muslim Brotherhood, and then Fatah el-Sisi. You know what happened to Libya? You know what happened to Sudan? These anti-government protests sponsored by the West bring no good in Africa, but shows and chaos and wars. So what I'm saying here is, the Tanzanian protests is not by Tanzanians actually. It is those Tanzanians protesting are being trained by Western elements using Kenyan activists. That's why Tanzania deported those activists. You understand? So Kenyans, that's why you see every Kenyan influencer, YouTuber right now is criticizing Tanzania because they are being paid by Western elements to talk bad about Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan. But Kenyans are very myopic people, those influencers. Let them think when this type of protests happen in Tanzania, let me tell you, Kenya will be worse off. You understand? They think they want democracy. That's what they label this organization, Western media in Middle East and North Africa, that is a pro-democracy. But has democracy brought any good in Libya? Has democracy brought any good in Egypt? Has democracy brought any good in Syria? Has democracy brought any good in Sudan? Has democracy brought any good in Iraq? No. So that's the same thing they want to spoil East Africa. It started with it started with Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, the protest and the war of the Tigray. You know, it came to Museveni also. Museveni defeated them. Ruto defeated them. Samia Suluhu has defeated them. Now they took over Madagascar. Let's see if Madagascar is going to be any good. No, I promise you, Madagascar is not to be any good. Madagascar is going to be worse off. You think those protests that took out the Madagascan president who was against COVID, you think those protests are going to bring any good in Madagascar? I promise you, no. They are going to go bring actually chaos and show us in Madagascar. People are going to regret. That's why I don't want these hooligan protests sponsored by the West, you know, being sponsored by the West to bring change in Tanzania. No, and actually they're using Kenya. They don't want to use Western media anymore because people don't trust Western media. Now they're using Kenyan influencers like Lini Ngugi, to mention a few. You understand? They are Kenyan protesters, Kenyan influencers are the ones being used to do this, to push this narrative that the Gen Z, you know, they are labeling it as Gen Z protest. I promise you, Gen Z protests are not going to bring any good in Africa. We don't don't need the protest to ruin a government. You understand? It has shown us when the government is taken out by protests, things become worse. The case that I'll show you is Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, to mention a few. Give me one country of recent where protests have taken out a leader and the country has prospered. None exists. So don't think when the protests of hooligans try to take out Samia Suluhu Hassan, Tanzania will be well off. No, I'm against these hooligan protests. You know, mugonge like, subscribe na mwache comment. Kwa heri, bye bye.